My next guest is writer, producer, director, in that order, Simon Barrett. Now, Simon wrote both You're Next and The Guest. He's the producer of the VHS anthology franchise, and he directed one of the best segments on VHS too. Simon is writing and producing with me the American remake of I Saw the Devil. Simon is part of a new wave of horror filmmakers called the mumble gore community. That's a play on the word mumble core. Today, Simon is going to pitch a big budget blockbuster sequel to the comedy classic How High, starring Methodman and Redman.
I'm Simon Barrett, and I'm going to be pitching a big-budget sequel to the film How High. You have to find a property that creates a world and a mythology that's always going to be relevant, but it's also unique enough, more or less, no other movie's done it. The first film you're going to think of is How High, the 2001 film with Methodman and Redman. Made for $20 million, grossed a whopping $31 million. Now, that film was the first one that had the integrity to posit the notion that if your friend dies and you grow a weed plant with their ashes and you smoke the weed from the plant that was made using their dead body, their ghost will come to you and help you. In the case of that film, obviously they got into Harvard. Turned out they didn't need their dead friend as much, turned out they were skilled on their own. I would love to reboot that as a very big budget action film. Now, my idea kind of being here, that like what kind of movie do stoners really like to watch? They like to watch kung fu movies, martial arts films. It was kind of a missed opportunity, in my opinion, for their friend to have been like really smart. Their friend was really good at kung fu. What if he was like really good at fighting? Iko Uwais or Joe Taslim, one of these guys from the raid, and that's their friend. And maybe he doesn't like even have to speak English. Maybe he just, speaks like Indonesian with subtitles, but they just can understand him and they speak English. He's just awesome at fighting, and maybe like one day they're walking past a dojo or something and they see like some cute girl in there and they try to hit on her and it's wacky and it's funny because it's Method Man and Redman, and you just know like no matter what they do it's going to be great. I actually don't really intend to write a script. It'd be more like you're recording it, so we could maybe make that the script. They could kind of just come up with their own kind of thing, like in terms of dialogue and scenes and action. For some reason they want to do like a martial arts thing. Their friend has to die. They need his dead body. Their martial arts friend gets murdered by like a criminal gang. Get his ashes as you would, and they grow a bunch of marijuana plants with his ashes, as you would do when your friend dies also. And so when they smoke the weed, their friend comes and he can teach them martial arts. And also, I think he should also basically give them some kind of magical powers. Like they're really good at fighting, but only when his ghost is there. Method Man, Redman. Again, they'd be kind of actually coming up with the details and the actual jokes. I wouldn't actually be doing so much of that work. As you know, I come from kind of more of an indie kind of mumblecore background. My actual written scripts are generally on like cocktail napkins and sometimes tear-stained tissues. So they're really good at martial arts, so they start kind of rising up in the ranks and maybe get like what's really popular right now, UFC. Hollywood's always trying to figure out how to make like a UFC movie, or at least I think that's true. Also, I think parkour was very popular in one of those British films. Maybe they're rising up through the ranks and they're really good at fighting, but no one can understand because their style is really weird because they're always talking to a ghost. And sometimes maybe like the ghost does funny things, like he gets behind their opponent and trips him. That actually is a good idea. And I would write that one down. They smoke all the weed. They start fighting each other. It's this crazy thing because they have superpowers. So they destroy like an entire city, millions of casualties, but we don't address that directly. They destroy the entire city. It's like a bickering fight, and they smoke all the weed to like beat each other. And then the next day, they've got their big tournament. They got to like really impress the girl. The criminal gang that killed their friend, they killed that gang earlier. The weed's all gone, and they're like, dude, we smoked all the weed. And it's funny because it's Method Man and Redman saying it to each other. They have to do the tournament without their magical powers and without their ghost friend. But they discover in fighting each other, they actually learned to really fight. And so they do the tournament without the weed, and they still win. To me, like they do like crazy outside the box things, and that's how they win the fight. That's how they win the tournament at the end. That's kind of going to be the happy ending that like really seals the bow. There must be two girls because each one of them should get a girl, I think, at the end. Won over by kind of Method Man and Redman, more party-based lifestyle. And they've learned that like they needed to learn to loosen up a little. Method Man and Redman maybe needed to learn to get a little more serious. So you get the idea that these relationships are going to last. That's how you get like the 4 quadrants, because women will like this film too. I don't know what the other 2 quadrants are. Men and women, that's 2 quadrants, because there's a romance and it works, it makes sense. So that's kind of my plan, so that's my strategy, so it's good that we have cameras right now. I recognize that movies have a visual style and that they have a look and a tone. To me, modern audiences, they don't care about that. They just want to more or less be able to see the actors that are saying the lines, basically be in focus. So that's one thing. I would want almost all the shots to be in focus, like crisp focus, like you can see the actors, you can see their eyes. It's not so dark that you can't see what's happening, but at the same time not so bright that you also can't see what's happening. It would be like kind of in the in-between zone. And yeah, I think that's the way most modern comedies are shot. Generally there's some close-ups. Maybe we'd just film the entire movie once in close-up and then go back and shoot it again with the camera wider. Maybe that would be good. That's probably one of the reasons this is going to have to be a fairly big budget film. The ghost would look exactly like the actor, but slightly transparent. I don't know how you do special effects like that. You know, one of these guys like Peter Jackson to produce the film, like he probably would know how to do like a ghost where you can kind of see the, you know what I mean? Like you can kind of see the background, but he's also kind of there. Who would play the gangster? I honestly forgot about that character. There needs to be a really good actor, like who's really good at playing villains. Off the top of my head, I want to say like Barack Obama. On my Twitter feed, people are constantly like saying like bad things about him, but they're also like really interested in him. And he certainly has like a charm. I voted for him once. I don't know that I did it twice. He'd have a lot of fun with the role. I mean, we could give him like a big cigar to kind of be chewing on, and maybe like a top hat. For the love interest, that's another really good question. But again, I'm gonna probably have to go with Miley Cyrus in both roles. Mostly because I feel like she did that kind of in the earlier part of her career where she was Hannah Montana. So have her as Hannah Montana as one of the love interests and have her as herself now, the kind of Terry Richardson Miley Cyrus in the other one. Honestly, this is where I'm starting to kind of think for you, because to me that saves money. Whenever like anyone smokes weed, the movie should just get like crazy. Put on your 3D glasses thing, except they'll already be wearing those because the movie will be in 3D. We should hear like some crazy like hip hop at that moment, maybe also some dubstep also. 2 different songs should start playing at once, one of the right speakers, one of the left speakers. The whole movie just starts like kind of vibrating and your seat starts vibrating from the bass. People get kind of nauseous in the audience. And then when the scene ends, the nausea's over. Marijuana treats nausea. But yeah, those scenes are really long too. Whenever anyone smokes, it goes into like extreme slow motion. But it doesn't do anything, it just slows way down. Fight scenes like should be like crazy over the top, because remember like the magic weed is affecting the way Method Man and Redman fight. So like when they punch someone, that person should fly back like 5,000 feet and like kill people in the audience and smash the walls and go into the parking lot, and there are people in their cars and they could die too. Every time anyone gets hit, people who are watching die. Maybe it's not so much UFC, but like robot wars. Like, so the people they're fighting are like kind of cyborgs and they kind of have like robot limbs. So they have like a robot punch or a robot kick, hydraulic like elbow throws and stuff. That's actually a good idea and I like that. Crazy kind of cartoonish violence. You know, there was a very popular film a little while ago, it was called The Matrix, but it did really well. And like the way people fought in that movie I thought was just crazy. And so it'd be like that, but times like a million. The Matrix on steroids, but it's not steroids because it's how high, so we'd be like, the pitch of this movie is like The Matrix on weed. I don't want to make a movie that's inhumane, so I do feel like a woman sobbing over, you know, the body of her dead son or something. But then we just cut back to the fight, and you know, there's no legal repercussions because, you know, this is a fun movie and it's funny. Maybe like there's a moment where, you know, you see a guy and he's kind of like, I am gonna call her, and then a car flies out of nowhere and kills him. Again, we want to point out that these are real people and there's real consequences to these actions, but it's a fun movie, it's funny. So when someone dies, you know, we just kind of touch on it and then move on. Method Man's more of your classic leading man. He's more debonair, he's more kind of refined, he's more of a ladies' man, he's got the fangs. Redman's the wild card, he's the funny one, he's wacky. You know he's always gonna say something crazy because he's Redman. Like he's gonna say something wacky and funny. But Method Man's more focused, he's more like, no, I want to have sex with this person, so let's smoke our dead friend, use his dead kung fu ghost powers to beat these robots. And Redman's like, okay, I'll do that because I like hanging out and I'm the funny one. I know that Method Man has his woo wear, would bring a lot to it. I believe there's also a woo makeup line. Like I would expect that we'd probably be able to get a lot of that stuff fairly inexpensively, so I would expect kind of everyone to be wearing some various degree of woo wear. Method Man's, I think his is like an upside down W. For me, that would be kind of it. He'd always kind of wear that. Even though I think his character's name is Silas, that's something I would want to change. It's like Method Man Silas. I think Redman was Jamal. That took me out of it a little bit. I just wanted to see Method Man and Redman hang out and go to Harvard and dig up corpses and smoke them. To me, it's like, look, you paid your money to see Method Man and Redman. They're gonna dress each other as Method Man and Redman, or Meth and Red. If Redman doesn't have a clothing line, then I'd want to be wearing a name tag that says Redman. I'm open to the idea of it being somewhat futuristic, like, you know, kind of the year 2034, just that they could have things like flying cars. The year is 2034. Most people are part robot for professional fighting as entertainment. There's this one school that's like against that. They don't like the robot fighting. They think it should be natural, like original kung fu, like spiritual healing foundation. And Method Man and Redman both want to have sex with girls at that school. And so they get into that whole thing, but they smoke their dead friend and they get really good at kung fu and they fight the robots and they win. That's my new pitch.
What if Tarantino made a Batman movie? They don't just exist in some writer's head. They're a little too out there. If you'd like me to keep making more, please share this with all your friends. I hope you enjoy them.